how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So I want to focus on the Rick and Michonne show in this video, and I actually wanted to talk about, a few things, I guess. I wanted to talk about Scott Gimple's comments regarding Rick and, what we're going to see from the character in this show. I also want to talk about Andrew Lincoln and just, Rick Grimes in general and future stories with the character after the show is over. But I really mostly want to focus on some of the opening minutes here. I do want to give some opening minutes predictions because we've gotten a bunch of information. Obviously, they posted a bunch of set photos and stuff like that. And so now that we've seen a lot of that, and I think they're done like episode 3, they're probably in episode 4 right now, somewhere around there in terms of filming. I kind of want to give some predictions based off of just sort of what we've seen. And obviously, I'm just going to focus on the first episode, but I do want to explore some of that there. So obviously, before going further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get more Walking Dead content like this. And I also do want to say, these are just predictions. I'm not saying that this is what is happening, because I know sometimes when I give predictions, people really, really take it to heart and they really think I'm meaning this is officially happening and I am 100% right. Your opinion does not matter and whatnot. So obviously, post your thoughts, post your predictions down below if you think otherwise. This is just my opinion and my thoughts on sort of what I see happening here. But yeah, and also I would really greatly appreciate it if you guys could actually go follow my friend on Twitch. He's actually been doing Twitch for a little bit, and he's almost at 50 followers, so it'd be really nice if we could actually get him there. I think he's at 40 right now, so it would just take 10 of you guys just to, push him over that edge and just get him to 50 followers. I do play games with him a lot. I'll stream with him a lot as well. So yeah, I would really appreciate it. The link is going to be in the description, so definitely go follow him on Twitch. His username is Big Budge, and yeah, again, he's so close to 50 followers. He's super entertaining as well, so it's not going to be you're just going to be following him for nothing. You're actually going to like the content that he puts out there. So definitely go give him a follow. So let's actually talk about the opening minutes here to the Rick and Michonne show. So for this show, the overall predictions that I have for how I think this show is going to begin is going to be with how Rick arrives at the CRM base. I really, I've had this prediction for a long time, and yes, we've gotten scenes since then, since I've made those predictions. We've seen Rick in the finale for The Walking Dead, and we've seen some of that play out, but I still think we're going to see how he arrives there. I think we're going to see how he gets assigned to working for the CRM and manual labor. I think we're going to see some stuff with Jadis, there in the very beginning, and just sort of how she, hands him over to the CRM. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I wouldn't be surprised if, honestly, they do film that entire scene, basically, they recreate it all. Jadis gets into that same outfit. She has the same long hair. They're in the helicopter. Rick is, in that same exact outfit. And basically, we see the helicopter arrive at the CRM base, and then we see Rick, I guess, put onto a cot and then taken into a hospital or something like that. And Jadis is following him. Maybe he's sort of in and out of it, and we're seeing it from his point of view. And he just kind of passes out, but then maybe wakes up inside the hospital room. And then there's a nurse there. He's talking to that nurse. A doctor comes in or something, and he's asking a bunch of questions. Maybe he tries to escape or something like that, right? I do think it's going to play out a lot like that. And now that we know where he ends up, it's actually it overall makes so much more sense, because he's likely going to try and break out. There's likely going to be an attempt made for him to try and escape this place, but I think Jadis obviously is going to trade him to the CRM. I don't think we're going to see everything with her, getting her reward and stuff like that for trading him in. I think if anything, it's just going to be more of we see her talking with CRM officials, and then the CRM just take him away kind of thing. And then I think, they're going to put him with, or designate him to the job that he actually does. And then, that's the thing, too, with that whole situation is I'm assuming that Rick is going to have a place to live, right? He's going to be assigned all of this stuff, and then that's just sort of where he is. I know that there's been some talk of the health and welfare complex, so there could be some stuff there as well, right? In World Beyond, I know that there was some sort of thing that Elizabeth Kublik talked about where she had to go deal with something at the health and welfare complex. It's possible that in the finale for The Walking Dead, when we saw Rick break out, right, or when we see him break out, he was already broken out of the CRM, but he threw that bottle in the river, and then the CRM caught him. It's possible that after that, because he broke out and did that, he got taken away and sent to the CRM Health and Welfare Complex, right? And then there he was sort of probably put to, I don't know, some sort of use. They may have tried to like, brainwash him in whatever way they can, basically to get him to a point where he's willing to work for them again. And then maybe he goes back out on the job sort of thing, right? That's kind of how I see the overall story for this playing out. And then I think most of the story for the six episodes is going to take place after that. In the current timeline, I think that's going to be the brief history or the brief, general story of the first like 10 to 15 minutes of this first episode. Is I think we're going to see Rick, first arrive there. We're going to get some explanation as to why we saw him there or out there in the woods in the finale. What happens to him after he gets taken back to the CRM by that helicopter. That's where I think that the series is mostly going to start and focus on. I think it's the stuff after that. And I think that's the part there that I'm really excited about, because if you remember, Gimple did tease that we are going to see Murder Coat Rick, right? Or Murder Jacket Rick, or however you say it, and I'm very, very excited for that, because that version of Rick obviously is probably the most famous, like the most popular among people, or among fans. Like, he is just, like, that character is amazing, and I think is why for most people, Rick Grimes really is their favorite character. And so to get the version of that character back, I think is it's perfect for this series, first of all, because you do want to do something with that character like that. You do want to create these more iconic scenes, right? To make the show worth it and to make the wait worth it as well, because we've been waiting years to see Rick again. So, and based off of some of the photos that were released, it does seem like we're going to be getting that, right? Like, we saw some photos with Rick with like blood on his face and stuff. So it looks like he's going to be doing some killing. It could just be walkers because it is like the first couple of episodes, but we'll have to wait and see. There's probably going to be some CRM soldiers as well, I'm assuming, right? Like, I imagine for this series to be amazing and excellent, I think they're going to want to create something very iconic and just have like this pure bloodshed moment, And I think it's going to be like an episode 4 or 5 thing. That's sort of what I'm guessing. Because, like, do you want to do something like that so early on? I don't think so, right? Like, I don't think you want to do something like that very, very early on. I think you want to do it later on in the series. Maybe you have Rick and Michonne together halfway through these 6 episodes. And then, by episode 4 or 5, something happens to Michonne or Rick. They're separated maybe, or they're held captive. And in order to sort of break out of that situation, Rick has to do something so crazy, right? I could see something like that happening. I could see them writing something like that. I think that's likely going to be one of those bigger moments, because I'm just thinking story-wise, you want to have an amazing moment. You do want to work up to this like really high point for the show, right? And depending on, if it does get a season 2 or not, that might be episode 5. And if it does get a season 2, they might, push it over to episode 6, right? And then that's where they'll actually do the crazy Rick Grimes murder coat or murder jacket moment. And then that could be a cliffhanger, or it could be something that obviously sets up a season 2, right? Because it really depends on how they're planning to play this whole thing out here. Based off of, I'm not going to get into any spoilers here, but based off of what they're doing right now in terms of filming, they're around episode 3 or 4. It's so hard for me to believe that, like, they have one more episode after this to film, and then, they're basically out of the CRM already, and then episode 6 is just like, they go back to Alexandria and they're home. Like, it's so fast, right? Like, it is way too fast. And so that's where I wanted to get into some of this stuff here, in terms of future stories with Rick, Imagine, just for the sake of argument, that this is the end. This show here is the end of Rick. He ends up back in Alexandria. Like, what? Does it just end there? Like, if anything happens now with Maggie, Negan, Daryl, or any of the other characters that are gonna, eventually get spinoffs or end up in these other spinoffs, does Rick just decide to not help? Like, that just seems so ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, Rick is a character that is going to help. And like, same with Michonne. Like, is Michonne just not going to help as well? I will say Rick, or I guess not Rick, but Andrew Lincoln, it's always seemed like since he left the show that he's always regretted leaving the show. Norman Reedus has talked about that. Andrew Lincoln has said that he's regretted leaving the show. And he even said that a few years back, if you remember. So it's hard to believe that he's just back for one season, like just 6 episodes and that's it. I do think if it was up to him, I do think he would have liked to have stayed on the show for a lot longer, because it's not like he's doing a bunch of other roles, right? And maybe the roles just aren't there. I'm not saying that Andrew Lincoln can't get like movie roles and stuff like that, but he hasn't been doing anything, right? Like for an actor like that, you would have thought, especially playing Rick Grimes, that once he's done with that character, there's going to be so many movie roles there. Maybe he's being picky. I have no idea. But there hasn't been a lot. He did Penguin Bloom, and then he did that, I don't remember what that show was, but it was a Netflix show, and he was in that one episode, which I actually really enjoyed. But he's basically just done a few things. He did that Christmas Carol play, right? Like, he hasn't really done a lot. Maybe he's just enjoying life. That's very possible as well. Obviously, I don't know. I'm just purely speculating right now, but it's not like he's done a lot, right? And then coming back to do Rick Grimes, like, this is the one character that, gave him his fame, gave him everything that he has, right? For the most part. And it makes sense that once you saw the show getting bigger and better after season 8, that he kind of regretted leaving, because now you're seeing, what they're doing with the story, how they're expanding everything. I could see why he probably regretted leaving right away, because, there's a lot more excitement there. And back then, if you remember season 7 and 8, like, the ratings were dropping a lot, and there was just so much negativity with The Walking Dead. Chandler Riggs left the show. It just made sense at that point that he was probably like, you know what, this is all going downhill, I just want out, kind of thing. But Angela Kang took over and really changed a lot. And, I think they fixed a lot of sort of writing issues that they had back then. Obviously, there's still some issues here and there, but I mean, that's the same with all shows and movies. Like, there's always going to be issues here and there. Some people are fans of this, some people aren't, right? So I do think there's a part of him that probably regretted a lot of that. And so I personally find it very hard to believe that this is just the end for that character, just these 6 episodes here. And I always go back to the wording of how they worded this show, which was like, this is going to end their stories, like their character stories. So I wonder if this show is going to be something that ends their relationship, kind of thing, right? I know that's a lot. That's definitely a lot, but I wonder if that's sort of how they would go about that, and that's the thing. Who's going to die then if that's the case? Does Rick die? To me, that doesn't really make too much sense, because, like, Rick's basically dead on the show, right? Like, everyone has assumed he's been dead for years now. Michonne's the only one who just found proof that he could be alive, right? And then so what? She finds him and then he dies in the end anyways? That doesn't really make too much sense. But what if Michonne was the one to die, right? Like, that would be really tragic, but also very heroic. Like, she went out there to save him and bring him home, but obviously she lost her life in doing that. I also find that hard to believe. I just can't picture Michonne dying. I think that would just be way too tragic. But then again, like, there was the Rick and Andrea scene in the comic, right? Yeah, you could say they gave that to Negan and Lucille, but it wasn't exactly done the same way, right? So who knows what's happening with all of this here. Personally, I find it very hard to believe that Andrew Lincoln is done with Rick this fast, because it's always sort of seemed like he wanted to do more. And coming back for just 6 episodes seems like not really a lot. And I think he most likely wants to do a lot more, even if it's just 2 more seasons. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post your thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.